my followers who are listening to me today. And my new followers, I think I got some more from the podcast fest that I went to in Orlando. It was very exciting. So I think I have some new ones, and I appreciate you all for being here and being a part of this next guest and meeting a good friend of mine who I've known for over 20 years, my friend who survived 9/11, 2001. His name is Mike Dempsey. And with that, I want to introduce you to him, and he's going to explain a little bit about himself, what he was doing prior to 9/11, and so forth, and going forward. So welcome, Mike Dempsey.
Yeah, you said 20, but it's actually been 21 and 4 months. So it's
I
hard
said
every day, every month, every year that goes by, but I think we're still doing pretty well. But just a little background on myself. Prior to 9/11, played from Brooklyn. I live in North Carolina now, but haven't lost my New York accent, as Monica knows, and grew up in Flatbush, lived in Sheepshead Bay, but I went down to Tampa. Played football up in Albany, New York, Division III school. Had an opportunity to play arena football briefly with the Albany Firebirds in 1993, blew up my ACL, meniscus. Was on the rehab trail for about a year and a half. I got an opportunity with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Didn't the same year that Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks got drafted, and they were a little bit better than me, and I didn't make the team, but I was on a practice squad. I was a practice squad reject, is what I would call it. I got my NFL alumni privileges through being a guy that only got really practice action. So I was a failed athlete down in Tampa with no job. The Rock had $7 in his pocket, had about $5.25 maybe. Could barely afford any groceries, but grew up poor in Brooklyn. And I got an opportunity to work with Salomon Brothers. It was actually a big Wall Street firm that moved from New York to Tampa in the early 90s, and got a whole new financial services career out of being a failed athlete. I tried professional wrestling, didn't work out very well. 4 days of getting body slammed, I quit that. So really financial services was all I had to do. So I went back to New York with Salomon, Smith Barney, Citigroup, with that merger in the late 90s. And I had two opportunities. One was to work for Cantor Fitzgerald back in late 2000. And we all know Cantor Fitzgerald's story of what happened on 9/11. And I had this opportunity to work for Credit Suisse First Boston, or Credit Suisse. I say Swiss, I'm from Brooklyn. So I took the Credit Suisse job, although I had both offers and had a lot more friends and family at Cantor, which I'll go into later. But I took the job at Credit Suisse, but I was in 5 World Trade Center. So instead of being on the 101st floor of Tower 1, I was on the top floor of 5 World Trade Center, which was 9 stories. 5, as many people maybe do or do not know, that was connected to 1. So that morning, the story of 9/11 was really the night before. I was at a Yankee game with my wife. It was 2.5-hour rain delay, and it was canceled about 9:45, which is very unusual. Usually rainouts happen right away. This was the longest rainout. It was Roger Clemens going for his 20th win, waited there, and it was called off. Well, I went back to Penn Station. We were living in Valley Stream, missed the train, got home around midnight, 12:30. I was at work the next day at 5 World Trade Center, probably like 8 a.m. I was on that early train. The wife, she was going to Marsh McLennan, Tower 100 floor, but she was late, overslept. Cell phones were new. And we had this kind of strange thing where we didn't know where each other's was at the time of when the planes hit the building. I can tell you that we had no TVs in World Trade Center, old school building, and didn't know what exactly when the building kind of shook. I was internet surfing. It was the day after Monday Night Wrestling, WWE. So WWF at the time, I was looking for the wrestling results and reading an article about Kurt Angle, and building shook. And I think the engine of the plane landed, Monica, I think, in 5 World Trade Center, which set it on fire. And I didn't know that until many, many years later, why 5 was destroyed, or at that point, obviously all the buildings, 7 included, but 5, I think the engine landed. But evacuation was pretty orderly down Vesey Street on the other side of, I don't know, is it Vesey or Vesey? I say Vesey, but Vesey Street. So went down that stairwell, but went back into the One World Trade Center area right through that mall. And obviously there was a concert set up on Tuesday nights. They had concerts at the World Trade Center Plaza. Went through the plaza again, since it was happening above me. I heard the sounds. I didn't, people always ask me, did I see people jumping? No, looking above me, I didn't know what was hitting, but I knew the sounds. I didn't know a plane hit the building. Didn't know anything until I got into One World Trade Center lobby, probably a little bit before 9 o'clock. And I said, I have to get upstairs. My wife's up there. Elevators, I saw the glass blown out, so couldn't get anywhere. And went out through the mall, back out there through the other side, which was actually the smartest thing to do. I came out by the Sam Goody, the old record store where they had records back in those days. Now I don't think we have records anymore, but went out by Sam Goody on Liberty Street in Greenwich to try to use my phone, which wasn't working, and try to see if I could connect. It was dead. Obviously, we know now the service was dead. As I got out, it had to be 9:03 a.m. because as I got out that Liberty Street, Greenwich Street, this piece right there, that second plane came barreling right over the old Bankers Trust building, which is right across from me. It was on 130 Liberty Street, was the old Bankers Trust building, now Deutsche Bank building, whatever they call it. And didn't have a chance to react. I got knocked out, trampled, fell face forward. Don't have any memory other than seeing the plane hit the building. Don't know from 9:03 to I believe 9:30 something when a colleague named Jerry Werner found me laying in City Hall Park on a bench, semi-conscious. Don't remember that. He got me to NYU downtown Beekman. I had a fractured skull, internal bleeding, also other injuries that took, but I was transferred to Mercy Medical in Rockville Center later that day. But the most traumatic thing for me, and I know you're probably gonna ask the question, is what was the most traumatic thing of that day was we were in a courtyard, triage. That's where a lot of victims were taken at NYU, probably thinking St. Vincent's likely as well. They set these triages where people were helping, assisting victims. And when that Tower 2, which is the one that collapsed first, the debris cloud went toward the Brooklyn Bridge, and Gold Street and Beekman is right in the middle of that. So if you look at the geography of downtown Manhattan, that's where, so that debris cloud came barreling. Now, I only heard, that noise. I didn't really see anything until it just enveloped me. And I was blinded for about a minute. The first thing that came in my mind was nuclear holocaust kind of thing, because we all seen growing up. I'm in that era watching that The Day After. I think that was the movie in the early 80s and it burned. I just remember the burning feeling. My eyes were burning, and it was the scariest thing because you thought, man, that's a horrible way to go out, and my skin's going to, you're thinking the worst. And it was about a minute or two, and I heard those eerie sounds we know in those World Trade Center documentaries, the firefighter battery radios that were, I remember hearing that. And but I had no protection. There was nothing over my mouth, or they didn't give us the COVID masks back then. So, I think the most lingering injury for me was more, first of all, the PTSD, obviously from witnessing or going through that, but also really the reactive airways. I had a lot of clear my throat, a lot of stuff. Even when I had those laryngoscopies, they still give me these World Trade Center Health 9/11 screenings every year. They make me breathe into the tube. It's not the chest, it's the throat. And I think the stuff I have there, the debris or it's pulverized concrete and dust, it's still there. I mean, I clear my throat a lot of times when I'm in very heavily air conditioned areas, and or if I'm anxious about something, it just triggers it. So I've learned to live with it. I don't take inhalers or any of that stuff. It's just something you live with every day. Normalize 9/11, right? The injuries. And that's kind of like a little bit of the 9/11 experience to me. But then I got immersed after depression for, when I got out of hospital, knowing I lost friends at Cantor Fitzgerald, and just kind of understanding what happened. 3 weeks later, just reliving the trauma, I wanted to get involved and help out. I connected with somebody through the Oklahoma City bombing family. You know him, Monica Ken Thompson, reconnected out to Anthony Gardner. And all of a sudden we had this Oklahoma City peer support group really in a couple of weeks after 9/11. I think it was early October when I first had made connections with Oklahoma City. And that's how I got involved in this 9/11 family of, which is a family I kind of wish I hadn't met. Unfortunately, I mean, I love everybody, but we met under awful circumstances, right? So we became a family overnight. And, we can get into 16 years later what transpired in Las Vegas, but I'm either like Forrest Gump or just I seem to end up in all these crazy places in life. And we'll get to that story later, but it's been a journey. And I think, healing, it's a day-to-day process. I have some good days, some bad days. I'm out on medical leave right now for PTSD. I've had some many triggers. It happens every so often where I go through an episode and I just can't function. So sleep and, PTSD is a real thing. So
Oh, I know all about it. Know all about it. So just getting back to what you were saying, so talk about your wife for a minute and what happened there.
yeah, well, she was on her way downtown, so she never made it. Like many people, like Subway, Long Island, as I say, I'm the Brooklyn guy, but the Long Island, when you live out there, you take, the Jamaica, Valley Stream, Jamaica, Penn Station. Penn Station, I think she was on the 806 train and got in about 8:45, right? The plane had 8:46. She was on the E train. I know she got as far as Canal Street. After Canal Street, it was a frozen zone, so she never got. We didn't hear from each other the whole day because I was in NYU downtown. And I got to tell you, like that hospital was crazy because they didn't even have all that water and stuff you see in the streets and people giving out stuff. I don't know. I was starving. I didn't have anything to eat. My meal card, which was my World Trade Center ID card, which was lost in the building, it had all my last money on it. So I remember you put the thing in there and like your $20 and it was your meal card. Lost that. I had no money and they didn't give. I went to the vending machine at some point around 2 p.m. It was like 5 hours later. And I just wanted like something like chips or pretzels. I can't remember what it was. Put the dollar bill in the vending machine and the thing got stuck, like you see the bag, it didn't make its way down, it gets stuck. And I'm there just like kind of trying to upsize the vending machine. That was that point where I was like, you got the head injury and you're like, I'm just hungry. Can somebody feed me? Give me some water? All that stuff I remember seeing on TV. I'm like, just come to the hospital, give it to us because nobody's giving me anything other than, so that was experience. But we didn't make contact till about 6 p.m. because I think my dad and my wife went to St. Vincent's to look for me and I wasn't there. I think there was a lot of misdirection about where victims were. And remember, Canal Street below that was a frozen zone. So you couldn't really get to the hospital if you were, even my dad being a cop with the badge, I think, he finally got down and reached me, but took quite a long time. And I remember giving her World Trade Center phone number to the detective or somebody police came down looking for contact information. And that number, of course, wasn't functional. I didn't comprehend about, all I remember hearing was something about this is for Israel or something like that, which I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know about the planes or terrorist attack. A lot of what happened that day for people watching on TV kind of had the storyline. I didn't have the storyline. So I really didn't know what the heck happened when I heard planes at the building. I'm thinking a small jet or something. I didn't know, anything until it was all pieced together because we didn't have the TVs, it wasn't like we were sitting there. I think in the lobby, they might have had a TV there. I can't recall.
They said a commuter plane hit the building because that's what I was watching on TV because he had called me twice, Michael. So, but the thing is, I didn't even know what a terrorist was. I was like, what's that? I had no idea. I didn't know people hated us so much. I didn't know there was that kind of evil in the world. I was actually pretty shocked. I was like, that was the first time I even heard that word because even in '93, they didn't say terrorist attack. They said bombers. It was only later that they started spewing it out and connecting the dots. But I was shocked. I did not even think that we had that kind of evil in the world. And it was it was a moment and you cannot even believe, like, how is that possible that these humans were able to get planes and do what they did?
Well, the emotions, I think for all of us is a lot of us went through a variety of acceptance of what happened. Then you get into the anger. Every one of us had anger. A lot of the anger persisted for many of our coalition. We were on a coalition of 9/11 families together, you with September's Mission and me with the, obviously through Anthony's group. And I remember going out to all those press conferences and we had a lot of folks that were angry, yell and scream because
I was never angry. No, I was.
Yeah, but a lot of them did.
And I know they were angry. I know, but anger doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
not get you anywhere. I had to focus.
No, I mean,
We had that world-class memorial and the museum to follow, and the anger, I see what it did to the families who
yeah,
were very angry. And it's sad
it
to
was.
see that.
It was. It really took many years, I think, and also diminished a lot of. We were trying to. When I learned a lot about politics, whether you're Republican or Democrat, we all had to compromise. It was all about, whether
Nonpartisan.
Psaki, who's on a Republican governor, whether it was Chuck Schumer, who I love. Chuck is a Democrat. Look, we're all one. There was no political parties to, we had to work with Giuliani, with every Bloomberg, as you very close with. It did not matter political party affiliation. It was about, we need a memorial that's going to honor our loved ones. And there was a lot of political and corporate stuff that got in the way of that. But I'm really proud that it took many, many years and a lot of internal dysfunction, a lot of fights with leaders, etc. But we got there.
Well, I thank God every day. I can say it's God's memorial. He made that happen.
Yeah. What was your mission? And your mission was accomplished. And that museum, every time I go there to look at what's there downtown, it's a legacy it's a perfect no. No museum is perfect, but it tells a story a lot more than what otherwise would have been there. They wanted to build right over it. Remember, these community members, the residents, were the ones really frustrated with. They were, I'm not going to name who they were, but that one, I will talk after who that one person was, but she offended me.
I know who it was. I'll be in the book. Don't worry. We'll put
it'll be in the book. Yeah.
That's tell the truth about the story, because the story has to be told correctly for future generations. Because like my mother was in Sudetenland. A lot of people don't know that was former Czechoslovakia. She was in the working camps. She's 100% German. So
wow.
That history, I didn't even know that existed. She didn't tell me that till later in life. And, I talk to people about this all the time, and they're like, what happened in World War II? My grandfather was captured by the Russians. He didn't find his family for a year. They were put in a foreign country, Germany, which was foreign at the time because they lived in Sudetenland, which is Deutschland, what was German land. So, they took the women and children out at night and brought them to the camps. And, that needs to be in history. That's why it's so important to tell the story correctly. And I know the story correctly. I was there for every meeting. I only missed one by accident because I went to the wrong location. But that's one out of the 21 plus years I've been doing this. I started.
Well, I had great admiration for you and Anthony. I think from the very beginning, both.
Thank God for Anthony, because I was connected to him, which was great.
Well, both of you really stood up from the very beginning, and I always had admiration for just getting up there. Now I'm doing, I could speak in the media and do all this stuff. You were doing that from day one, and you really represented everybody. So we had some.
All the credit to God, all the credit, because I was not well.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But you held up, and you did what a great job you did to kind of like give a face to it, because I think people needed to have a face. Identifying with somebody who lost a loved one. And I think your story really captivated a lot of people and really brought them into because I think people really needed to empathize with what we were all going through. There was no closure. You don't get closure even today. You still live with pieces. That's why I'm out on medical leave right now. I don't ever forget what happened that day. I can compartmentalize it and get on with my life and do things for others to make me, but I still struggle with those data. And you have the same thing. It's always in your heart. You just learn how to live with it, and that's not easy by any imagination. So I think
it's a choice. You choose to. It's no moving on. You choose to move into what you didn't expect to happen in your life. I always tell people I was happily married, because a lot of people are like, oh well, how would you know if you stay together? It's irrelevant. Yeah. The day he died, we were happily married. What is the difference if we weren't together in 5 or 10 years from that point? The day he died, we were happily married and in love, and we were looking to have a family. So, and on top of that, he was murdered on TV. I mean, I just think about all those lives that were lost, all these young lives who had their whole lives ahead of them. And so it doesn't matter even if we weren't happy that day, it's still my husband who I lost. Yeah. We got murdered on national TV globally around the world. I mean, I just can't even. It's people have no concept. And by the way, I don't want them to have that concept. I don't want them to ever have to live that nightmare, because this nightmare does not end.
You could write a chapter, I'm sure, in that book about all the insensitive things people said to you that were beyond shocking. I got the same things too about everybody just wanted to ask those awful questions about, did you see people jump from a building? What'd you see? They didn't care. They just wanted to know about the images, the sensational images not the pain that I still live with, because I had survivor guilt. And I know that's a question I get a lot. Well, Cantor Fitzgerald, right before I took a job offer, as you know, with them, I took the Credit Suisse job. But then right before 9/11, Virginia DiChiara, who was the internal auditor, the chief audit executive, who was burned herself in the World Trade Center. Her story was in Newsweek. It's a amazing story of resilience that she went through on the 78th floor lobby. Connecting her story is incredible. But Virginia had reached out to me to give me a counter offer to come work for Cantor. I met with Stephen Merkel, who was their chief legal counsel for Howard Lutnick, and met Howard. And I was there. I was back. I was going to work for Cantor. And I stayed. I had this wonderful guardian angel. You know, we talk about guardian angels a lot. Hal Gross. Hal just talked to him last night for a good hour. We hadn't spoken in a while. Ironically, there's a reason for everything, right? And Hal was my boss, first guy I think who really liked me working for. You know, he enjoyed. I had some tough jobs when I in my 20s, and I think I messed up every job I had probably. But Hal liked me, and I ended up staying to work for him because it was going so well, and that decision changed my life. It's ironic that I was still injured at Credit Suisse, being one of the only people. We lost one person who was at Windows of the World, but I was the only really injured, obviously because of my wife's connection to Marsh McLennan. But wow, I would have been up there, Tower One. I mean, it was a great job for a 29-year-old guy at the time. Would have been the deputy auditor, you know, making $100,000 a year for a kid from Brooklyn who didn't have
Time. I said to a lot of people, if it's your time, it's your time. Listen, I got hit once 3 years ago, and I still can't believe that happened to me. And I'm like here talking about it. So
exactly.
I literally got hit by a bus. That's a good story. But I have now PSTD from that, because what it does is it goes backwards. It brings you back to, you know, like your life, you know, ending. And, you know, I went through this. I'm like, God, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? It's like, you want to wake me up and say something to me and tell me, you know, this was right before the pandemic. I think he was warning me, you know, stuck elevator. I can handle that. Or something else, something light, not a big giant bus. He was, you know, I could do without the bus. I was like, what are you thinking, guys?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I saved your life. You were fine. I'm like, it's not fine. I still got hit by the thing. I mean, a giant bus hits you. I mean, I was like, he tries to wake you up in fun ways. I'm like,
yes,
not do that again, please. So it's ironic that because you're a survivor for a reason, not a season.
Well, I mean, the story that I jumped 15 years later, you know, you got this guy.
You can talk about that, yeah.
You get from 9/11 being, and then in the Forrest Gump life of sports philanthropy, as Monica knows, I do a lot of work with NFL alumni charities and other organizations. I'm always out doing things, traveling. It's my way of healing by helping other organizations. And I was at Cal Ripken's event in Maryland around end of September 2017. And one of my best friends growing up, Brett Raymer, was on a TV show called Tanked on Animal Planet. I used to help Brett get celebrities for his show, like Johnny Damon and some of these, Chris Jericho. And Brett was filming a show that weekend, the weekend of the Vegas shooting. Ironically, we didn't know something was going to happen that weekend, but in Vegas. And I wanted to be on a show. I wanted to show my kids, hey, Dad's on a cool Animal Planet show. Even if I was going to get on for like 5 minutes, I actually got on for like 5 seconds. It was like I was in the credits. Almost lost my life for being in the credits of his show, giving him a hug. And it was his engagement episode that he was doing for his, and I don't know how I made that flight. I was in Maryland. I got my flight at BWI. I almost missed it. Get out to Vegas. And that weekend was almost like this is your life, because I saw all my childhood friends who just happened to all be in Vegas that weekend. How ironic, not playing from different walks of life, high school, childhood, college. I mean, you name it. It was almost like this was meant that, and it was the very end. And I was going the next morning, I was going to be at Scott Baio's playing his celebrity golf outing every year in Los Angeles. So Vegas was really just a layover on a weekend to get to LA. So I was kind of jumping from Maryland to Vegas to Los Angeles. That's how my itinerary.
That's how you roll.
So Chachi was my end destination. So I got to Charles in Charge. That I posted on Facebook. I was with Brett at his house, and my oldest friend growing up, who Stevie said, "Hey, you're in Vegas. Can we meet up for a drink?" I'm like, "Yeah, meet me at Mandalay Bay. I'm at but we got to get to bed early. I got a 7 a.m. flight." So we met up for that one drink at Mandalay Bay. And anybody who knows Vegas knows Stevie was at the Excalibur Hotel. Now there is a tram. I don't know what trams, how they work or where they are. So we had our drinks and um, it took us a while to leave, and it was about 10 p.m. I believe it was, and we couldn't find this tram. It would have taken him 5 minutes. I wanted to walk him to the tram to get him. Couldn't find him. Like, yo, just go outside with me. Walk out to Las Vegas Boulevard. You make a left. It might be a little, about a block walk. That was our plan. So by the time we get to where the fountains are in front of Mandalay Bay, it was like, I guess 10:03, we hear this pop, pop, pop. And I'm thinking, oh, cool, fireworks. That's really weird. There was a hockey game earlier, but why would they do fireworks? It was their preseason, the Golden Knights. It was their first, I think, preseason hockey game. So I figured, wow, that's weird. Game ended like 3 hours ago. Now they do fireworks. But then all of a sudden we heard the shots like louder, almost like the guy switched windows. He went from one window to the other window. The second round was louder than anything. So it was incredible. So we went from one window and yeah, it all of a sudden I hear a sniper. Sniper, where the heck is that coming from? And so we ran back inside the Mandalay, not knowing the shooters in the Mandalay. We don't know where the shots are coming from. Like 9/11, I didn't see, I had to react. This is reaction. And I went back in the hotel and telling the guy, hey, I think there's a shooter. And he's looking at me like, what? Get the heck out. One of the security guys, they didn't react very well to what was going on outside. But within about 5 minutes, there was the stairs, and then we had to go to House of Blues and all kind of go into lockdown. I didn't get any good gumbo or anything when I'm in lockdown the whole night, but I kept thinking, I got to get the heck out of here as I saw what was going on. Social media is telling me there's people in every hotel, terrorists, and I'm thinking, oh, this ain't good. How the heck did I end up in this predicament? And somehow got out the next morning. But, I was on adrenaline, like as you were, Monica, after 9/11 for about, I don't know how long it took you to get off that adrenaline rush, but about 3 or 4 days later, when I got back home, after I golfed out, I kind of crashed and burned, pretty bad. So it was tough. I did an event with Johnny Bench in Charlotte. I was on the news. I was now the front page news story for about a week because the Vegas and the 9/11 connection and all that social media stuff. And it was really bad for me. So a lot of friends of mine said, Mike, you might not want to go out there and do any more of these interviews and I'm glad I took that advice because it started to really re-trigger a lot of things. And but what I'm proud of is a couple of years, about a year later, I was able to put together, and you were connected to it as well, Monica, down in Parkland. I had a connection with the Parkland shooting. Friends of mine that had kids who were survivors, and I said, we have to do something. We got all these communities, Sandy Hook, I had a connection there as well. My college football teammate, his son was a survivor. Got to bring these people together and just talk and help them like Oklahoma City helped us. And we put it together in like 6 weeks or less. Reverend was a big part of it. And we got to go down there. Fred Gutenberg, who lost his daughter, Jamie. He was a big part of it as well from Parkland. And we spoke to all the Parkland community about our experiences. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to be strong enough to be there for them in their time of need. So that was glad it came full circle. But sometimes you got to take care of yourself before you take care of others.
Right. So we're getting down to the last few minutes, and I think it's important that you telling that because we survive for a reason. You're here for a reason. Speak quickly about your two beautiful girls who have been a part of this journey with you and your wife.
Yeah, well, my older daughter Kelly, she's on the Asperger's autism spectrum. So Kelly is. We did a Dads and Daughters podcast during the pandemic. It was a lot of fun. Kelly's 21 November. She's been part of so many cool events with people like Tim Tebow. And she doesn't know these athletes, what their stats are. She just looks at them like individuals, which is awesome. She couldn't care less about what they accomplished in sports. But Kelly's been very strong, has helped others on there. She helps kids that are more on the spectrum than herself and really gives back. And Jenna as well. Jenna's my younger one, just turned 18. 2 days ago, and she's driving independent, and she takes care of her bigger sister. She actually drives Kelly now to school, to college. It's incredible that my younger one.
I'd be a nervous wreck.
Yeah, it's incredible. It really is. But Jenna's great. Both my girls have really been, and they're blessings, and that's really given me the encouragement to.
I think that sustains you because if I didn't have my two girls, there were times that I in the beginning I was suicidal. I was not.
I was there too. Well, we have a connection there. I was there too because my wife had miscarried a number of times. After 9/11, she miscarried from the stress of going through her ordeal. Like, people didn't look at people like my wife and say, well, she wasn't in the building, but still had the stress of knowing she would have been at work that day. And she was in the benefits department, so she had to handle the benefits of people who were deceased at Marsh. And I mean, how they let her do that, I don't understand what their logic or thinking was, but it really started to strain on her. And I do believe the miscarriage was related to stress, and that was our 4th miscarriage. And Kelly was a blessing. Wasn't supposed to happen. It was going to a fertility clinic on the Upper East Side, where not far from where you live, and thinking I had to get a donor egg, or I knew I needed a child to really give me some hope. And I was at that point of throw myself in front of a bus, and then Kelly happened.
You don't want to do that. That's not a good idea.
No, not a good idea. Not a good idea. But we've all been there. We've all been.
I know, it was bad. It was bad for me at the beginning because I thought I was pregnant. I was supposed to have a baby, and we were like, I wasn't pregnant, but my body thought it was because of, the stress of it all, and I had nothing to live for at that point.
Right.
Thank God for my girls, because they sustained me and they helped me with this nightmare, and they've been a product of it, unfortunately, and this legacy. But thank God every day for a world-class memorial museum and people like you, and that we have that community. I know it's hard, but it's better to have the community that we understand each other than not, because most don't. And I don't want people that really understand it. I want people that we don't want you to be in the 9/11 club. We don't. No negative.
But it's great that we support each other's causes, and we've been part of Mission B for many years, and you got me involved in it, and we've helped each other. And I did this boxing match a couple of years ago for charity, where I got in a ring and got beat up or whatever and raised a lot of money at the time, and getting hit in the head. It was a lot of fun. But those are the things that we help each other on, our causes and our efforts to help others. And I think that's the community of
that's the most important thing. That's why I'm still doing September's Mission, and I still feel that it sustained itself with bare minimum because of the good work it does. So I think that we can continue doing that. And then we will reconnect. I will see you in the next couple of weeks and do some of our work continuing forward. And we'll probably have another meeting of the minds again. But thank you so much. And I'm always a pleasure. And I'm glad we matched without matching.
Well, I think, we did. That was.
I didn't know that was happening. Yeah.
No, I think raising awareness, Monica, about PTSD too. I think that's one of my goals. I remember put on my LinkedIn post this year, just to said all the
yes.
I think it's really important to recognize that, and I'm a living example of it. And the fact that I'm out on leave right now because I really can't function in my day-to-day job is very important story to tell. That doesn't, because 21 years later, I still struggle. It was 4 years ago, but I still have these challenges and issues, and we all do. We have times when we're good, sometimes when we're not.
I don't think the pandemic helped either. So that's
no. But I mean,
mental health is really serious, and we need to really understand that and understand we should not be committing suicide. And that
I start a support group tomorrow. Plug it real quick. Marcus Ogden, Jonathan Ogden's brother, played in the NFL. Tomorrow, peer support group with pro athletes, and a lot of our pro athletes, we have those mental health issues. And I started tomorrow at noon, and I'm looking forward to just sharing my experiences with others and learning from them. They can learn from me.
Well, I can be around too for that too. If you ever need me for that, I'm around and available. All right, a pleasure, Mike Dempsey, and just stay away from big crowds for now.
Stay away from me on planes. Or I'm kidding. Everybody they want to travel with Mike Dempsey. So.
All right. Love to everyone. Thank you so much.
All right.
Pleasure. Kiss, kiss.
Thank you.
My fans, listeners, and my new listeners, and I hope they continue listening. Thank you so much, everybody. Ciao.
Bye.